as these hearings are proceeding, not too far away, there are blocks and blocks of lines of HHS and FDA employees who are waiting outside of a building and tapping their badge to see if they can get inside that building right now. And if that badge turns green, they are still employed. And if that badge turns red, that's how they find out that they've been fired. FDA employees are not just this kind of vague idea of a bureaucrat. These are scientists. These are individuals responsible for assessing what can come to market and what can also be brought over the counter. And in fact, just last week, we received notification the Trump administration will be cutting 3,500 employees from the FDA, a skeleton crew. So, Mr. Faber, what do the employees at the FDA do when it comes to reviewing OTC drugs and medical devices?
Well, they do everything from making sure that these ingredients are safe, that is, that they don't pose any risk of harm, cancer, reproductive harm, neurological harm, harm to our hormone systems, as well as making sure they're effective, that they actually block both UVA and UVB rays so that we're not at greater risk of skin cancer.
And would cuts to the FDA's workforce limit the FDA's ability to review and approve new over-the-counter drugs like sunscreen, but of course many others?
Absolutely. If we cut the funding for people who aren't reviewers, that doesn't mean FDA won't be able to complete these reviews. All the other experts, the biostatisticians, the economists, the label experts, all of those people are part of a review team that make these sunscreens available to us.
And what are some examples of drugs that the FDA has been able to make available over the counter without a prescription in recent years?
Well, we've heard some great examples. Claritin, allergy medications, Opill, oral contraceptions. Narcan or naloxone has been a great innovation that's now available over the counter. Anything that delays access to over-the-counter products is a step backwards.
Absolutely. And for so many people, you know, as was noted, not just in rural areas, but also in urban areas like mine, the added obstacle of having to see a doctor can prevent someone from getting really critical and important treatment for them. And to bring something over the counter can be just as seismic as bringing it to the market in the first place for a lot of people who have trouble accessing these drugs. And not only are these significant medical breakthroughs, but they make them more affordable and accessible. Mr. Faber, what could happen to products, for example, like baby formula? You know, baby formula is also regulated by the FDA. Many people may not know that some things that are considered an over-the-counter OTC or within the purview of the FDA are in the purview of FDA. And we saw a couple of years ago that there were shortages around baby formula. What could happen to products like baby formula if there are not enough FDA staff to review?
One of the reasons that infant formula was contaminated and that babies died was because yesterday we didn't have enough people to inspect food manufacturing facilities, including infant formula facilities, and they weren't being properly trained to do so. Today, by firing 3,500 people, we've made that problem even worse.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, going back to that baby formula issue, there was also a market issue where there's been this shift in saying companies can review themselves, they can investigate themselves, they can investigate their own supply chains. And I cannot think of something worse for people than not having an independent investigator whose job is to be responsive to the public in order to verify that the safety of our food and drug supply is all right. Do you have anything else to add, Dr. Faber?
I'll just say this committee passed the Food Safety Modernization Act 15 years ago for two reasons. One was to make sure that we inspected facilities more often, and the second was to make sure that inspectors were properly trained to know what to look for. And we did that in part because the food industry wanted a partner at the FDA that could help them police these long, complicated supply chains. Today, we made the job of industry to keep our food safe much harder.
Thank you.